and Mike D to my dismay.
Okay, I couldn't find a button. Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. If you need me, you can get a hold of me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Otherwise, if you need me for the show, if you need the show to contact me about the radio show, it's oppermanreport@gmail.com. Otherwise, you go to the website, oppermanreport.com. You can send me a message there. Let's see what else. Patreon is the Opperman Report Patreon. I just put up some new content up there, some free content for you. Good old AJ Weberman posted the big giant Freedom of Information Act file on the Yippies. I think it's from like 1967 to 1977, and it's a big giant FOIA. What do you call it? Google Drive, document there. And I'd say a lot of stuff. I've been to a lot of the stuff it was talking about in 76 and 77. I've been to a lot of those meetings. I've been to a lot of those rallies, a lot of those protests, and a lot of those planning sessions that they discusses. He has another document, too, that I was looking at it last night, that he's been putting a lot of stuff on his Facebook page. It's definitely worth it to stop by there and AJ Weberman and sign up to that. You'll see stuff you'll never see anywhere in the world. Pictures of him and John Lennon and, all kind of stuff. Phil Spector. All kind of stuff, man. This guy's got it at the tip of his fingers. I helped get his stuff into a library. Anyway, what do you call it? There's a document in there he posted about how he was responsible. Everyone likes to debate me on this. When I say how A.J. Weberman and Coup d'etat in America was the first guy to identify the three tramps as resembling E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis. And everyone says, oh, no, Dick Gregory, all this other stuff. But right, you got it right there in the FBI documents. It talks about that he was the first guy to come up with it. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, guys. I don't go out on a limb and just make stuff up or, go half-assed. And also, too, it's good to see that, to show you how the Yippies, how much surveillance there was, COINTELPRO surveillance and FBI surveillance and New York Red Squad surveillance. It's all there in these documents. So when I come to you, and I was a kid, 76, 77, I was in high school, all right? And then, I was with the Yippies like 82. But what do you call it? This is stuff I experienced firsthand. When I tell you about COINTELPRO, when I tell you about FBI surveillance and these things, it's from knowing it firsthand in real life, in my personal real life. This isn't stuff I've Googled. This isn't stuff that I've read about in a book, like most of your podcasters and YouTubers out there. This is my real life. And then my work with the organized crime cases, there was a lot of that stuff is coming back, too. Again, too, I worked with the top guys doing counter surveillance, bug sweeps, Ray Malucci, Don Frangipani, some of the legendary guys, So this is stuff, firsthand, real life, from childhood. Okay, I don't know how many guys out there, could be considered more of an expert in these areas. But okay, it's paranoid. You don't know what he's talking about. I'm all right. This is my opinion. I know you're. This is what you're reporting to me. This is what I think. I've watched a lot of YouTube, man. Let me tell you what I think here. Oh God. Anyway, that's our Patreon for free. And then otherwise in there's 3 good news shows. One is with this hacker guy with the hacker community named Clayton. My CFS 333, something like that. And that conversation goes all over the place. I met him through Barrett Brown and Rocco Caserto. And I cover a lot of stuff. Then there's 2 more shows with David Wheeler about this couple down in Florida that just wrote a postcard to the CFO, a financial government official, and they had 2 SWAT teams come to their house. They had 4 cops, bulletproof vests, show up at their house to question them to see if they're terrorists, So we did that, and then I have another show with this great guy, Misguided Patriots, who grew up and he found out that his mother and father were both in the CIA and also involved with MK Ultra and even with the Kennedy assassination. And you haven't heard this guy before, I can tell you that. You haven't read his book, I know that. He's going to sell a lot of books after doing this show. I'm going to play that tonight. Listen to this guy, very sincere man. He's not out promoting himself. He's not out there tooting his horn, making stuff up. I can tell you that. And he's not a nut, so far anyway. I usually give it about a year until I find out that my guest is a nut, but not this guy so far. And he's not out there, making things up, puffing things up. Man, he's on a journey to discover himself, and this is a unknown territory. This is, you've never heard this guy before. I can promise you that. And a lot of people haven't read his book before. It just came out. So once again, we're at the head of the game. 10 years ahead as usual. So we got that to come for you tonight too. Then I'm taping with a guy on Sunday that's got this information about this research organization, company, whatever you might want to call it, located near Mar-a-Lago, that has a lot of the usual suspects involved with it. And I'm taping with him on Sunday. I'm not really sure what his story is or what it's about or the research that's done. It's very complicated. So I'm going to be finding out as you find out. Okay. By the way, that Beastie Boys song, I don't know if I've played that before. Girls. I don't know if I played that before as the intro song. I know I've wanted to. And I know people freak out if somehow they think they've heard the show before. Okay, is this a new show or is it a repeat? They this is like the most important thing in their life, is whether the show is new or not. This is new. Today is September 7th. Oh, no, not September. I almost messed that up. July 17th, 2026. And one of the big things, too, one of the most important issues in people's life is, Ed, can you put, when I play the repeats on YouTube or when I play the repeats on every day of the week except for Friday, okay, if you want to know if a show is an old show or a new show, did it come out on Friday? That's a good clue. That's the first clue. If it's on a Friday, it's new content. Every other day of the week, unless it's a rare, special broadcast, then it's a repeat. And people will say, it's a very important issue in their life, Ed, can you put the dates on the show when you play a repeat? And the answer to that is no, I cannot. Okay? I'm not sitting here like uploading a show to all these different platforms. It uploads automatically. So what I'm doing is, and right now all the repeats are coming, I'm doing them in order from 2019, okay? So if you see a repeat around this time, it's going to be from 2019, 2020 is just starting to come up. And you can go back and look for it yourself. You go on Spreaker and look for it yourself. Because what I do is I go back into the podcast platform and I just change the date and it re-uploads, and then it automatically re-uploads to YouTube and to all these other podcast platforms, Spotify and iHeart and things. So there's no way for me to go in there and change and put in what the old date was on there too. I mean, I suppose there is, but it would be a lot of work and I'm not going to do that. It's just, it's just not that important, so for God forbid, if you do happen to hear something twice, I apologize, and hopefully you can recover. You'll get over it. Oh my God. It's just amazing, You guys, half the people, they listen to me and they get everything wrong. They have no idea who I am, what I'm talking about. They think I'm a conservative, right wing. They just don't understand. He's a Democrat. They don't understand who the hell I am, what I'm talking about. And then the other half hang on every single breath. And, God forbid they hear the same thing twice. This is a miserable life to be involved. To be in public life. It's just not worth it, man. Tomorrow I am taping with the great Dave Emery legendary Dave Emery on his Patreon. So you can go to his Patreon and sign up. You can listen to me live tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time, or like 2 or 3 o'clock Pacific time. And, we can call into, we take calls at the end of the show. And this is like my 6th or 7th show, mostly about Epstein stuff. He has me come on and talk about Epstein stuff. And if you've been listening to this, it really is some gold. If you can go there and listen to these shows. Because I talk about stuff before they're in the news, okay? And then you can see it in the news. You can see the articles in the news. And I come back a month later and I says, hey, remember what I was talking about last month? Look, it was in this article. It was in this article. It was New York Post, over here, and I lay it out for you. And then, hey, look, this witness wound up in front of the Oversight Committee. See? The stuff I'm talking about. So right there, it's, and it's, you can't accuse me of backdating shows or hiring, voice actors or whatever these crazy accusations are. I don't believe everything it says. All right, take it with a grain of salt. Okay, you keep doing that. And the last time I was on there, I got a chance to really lay out my whole relationship with Stephen Hoffenberg and, what I thought about him and maybe his possible intelligence connections and his connections to Dershowitz and stuff like that and Epstein and things and Trump and things that I knew about. And I got a chance to really sit down and explain my whole experience, how I met him, how we got to know each other, and the information we'd shared on the air, off the air, and the whole thing that I went up in the Virgin Islands, that whole thing that's totally underreported. That people just have no clue. It just blows my mind. And tomorrow, I think I'm going to get into the Katie Johnson stuff tomorrow. The whole stuff about the whole story about the two Jane Does. The whole thing with Katie Johnson is so fascinating. First of all, that it's called Katie Johnson at all, because the lawsuit I was involved in, she was a Jane Doe plaintiff, and the name Katie Johnson wasn't used at all. And so often we'll see on social media a well-meaning person will share a picture, by the way, of some kid that has nothing to do with Katie Johnson. She's a young actress. She has nothing to do with this case. Has nothing to do with Trump. She isn't a plaintiff in this case whatsoever. This little girl, they post her picture for some weird reason. And then they'll show a screenshot of the Katie Johnson first page of the complaint against Trump and Epstein. And, and that's what... Which, by the way, that first litigation was filed in California, and it was jurisdictional, subject matter jurisdiction. Remember that guy? That guy, that kept saying, "Your Honor, subject matter jurisdiction." And what's those guys? The sovereign citizens. They left this. But the first thing you want to establish is jurisdiction. That's the first thing you could attack too, as a defendant, is the jurisdiction of the case. Has it been filed in the right jurisdiction? That's legit, and that's what Trump went after. The jurisdiction was filed in California, and there was no case in California. So people go, it was thrown out. It was thrown out. It's filed in the wrong state. They didn't know what they were doing. And had that plaintiff come to me originally, before all this, she would have got a settlement. She would have got a settlement right now and been living a nice, happy life, But anyway. So this misdirection they try and hand you, well-meaning people, it's been circulated, this Katie Johnson front page of the complaint. And then usually I'll reply back and say, well, that's my case. Here's the whole complaint. It's on my Patreon for free. You can read the whole thing with all the witness affidavits and the whole thing. That was thrown out. And then they'll come back with the screenshot of the front page of the Daily Mirror with that hit piece, which is, they show the screenshot. They don't show the actual link to the article, because if you read the article, the screenshot says, oh, it's all fake. She admits it's all fake. And then when you actually click on the link and read the article, it says, well, we have an anonymous witness who says she knows the plaintiff and says it's all fake. So it's garbage. But if they posted the link and you clicked on it, you'd see it's garbage. So they just post a screenshot of the headline. So this is all well organized and orchestrated. Then they get into the whole stuff about the Jerry Springer stuff, which is total nonsense. I had nothing to do with anybody with Jerry Springer whatsoever. I never even knew about that Jerry Springer stuff until, years later. I started hearing about it. But what do you call it? And then now it's the talking points used against the Katie Johnson case are so outdated, and but they're still using the same ones, and it's an organized opposition that's out there because they don't talk about the July 4th, 2016 FBI report that the attorney made, Thomas Mayer made to the FBI. So everyone tries to say, well, she's an anonymous source. There really is no Katie. She doesn't exist. Nobody met her. And here we have the attorney making a report to the FBI, risking 8 years in prison for making a false FBI report. Okay? On a matter such as serious as this. 8 years. That's no joke. No one's, you know how lawyers are. They're a bunch of pussies, man. They don't take chances like that. Plus, it's a $250,000 fine. No lawyer is going to do that on a goofball operation. Jerry Springer. So then what happens then? So that's the Jane Doe case. I worked on that case against Trump and Epstein. But then we have a more recent one, this Hilton head lawsuit. This young girl, another 13-year-old, same story. The two stories, accounts are very, very similar. The second Jane Doe would never have, when she filed her case, had never read the first Jane Doe case. Neither of these girls knew each other. They weren't filed at the same time. Neither one of them would have known that their stories were so similar. Okay, which is remarkable to begin with. The same age, same brutality, same stuff. Even the same ways that they were lured into this operation. The story is so similar. And now it's a whole different case. According to Jeffrey Epstein's accountant, Richard Kahn, who testified for the Oversight Committee, he says it was settled on behalf of Trump by the Epstein estate. Later on, he comes back and says, "Oh, we didn't really settle. We're not going. We can't confirm or deny." Of course, if you have a settlement, an out-of-court settlement, there's a confidentiality agreement there as well, so you're not allowed to talk about it. And if he violated that, then this poor young victim who was raped at 13 years old could come now, tell her whole story, go on TV and tell the story because they violated it. So I'm sure some deal was made between the attorneys to give him a second chance to deny, Anyway, and now they're saying that kid's off the grid. She had to take off hiding because she has been identified. People know who she is, too. My client, I don't think people really know who she is because a lot of people try and find out who she is. I know who she is. I know where she is, too. But we're not going to get into that. So they tried to make a lot of confusion between the two Jane Doe cases, my client and this other client from Hilton Head, who received the settlement on behalf of Trump. So, and she made an FBI report too, and that became famous because when they released those files, they redacted a bunch of stuff. Then they went back and removed those files, and then they were put back in. And now there's a Katie Fang does a lawsuit to have this stuff unredacted. So Katie Fang now is the third Katie or the second Katie in this operation. And I know a lot of people, when you hear about this Katie Fang stuff, this Katie Fang lawsuit, and now she's this great hero, this heroine. She's such a heroine that Lou Reed is writing a song about her. Okay, she's such a great heroine. It is Epstein, the heroine here, is that people think that her lawsuit somehow is going to release those 3 million files that are out there that are not being released. But it's not whatsoever. It's going to unredact about 8 names or 10 names that we pretty much already know of Epstein co-defendants, and then this business about this Katie Johnson case, which is good to have the Katie Johnson stuff. But to elevate this woman as some kind of now a hero and an expert, and now the new authority on all of this, I'm suspicious, okay? And this is coming to from a guy who was suspicious about Michael Wolff, about Vicky Ward, about all these people, and a lot of people came up to, they wrote these crazy books about blackmail and stuff, and people came forward when they broke the story, and there's all kind of lawsuits and child abuse investigations with these people, and a lot of this stuff turned out to be crap. Michael Wolff, I've been telling you all this time, he was friends with Epstein, he was friends with Bannon. Now it comes out how deep he was friends with these people. So once again, I told you in the beginning, I told you a long time ago, And now it all comes out. So Katie Fang seems to be the new one being propped up as the hero and the legit source and the new face of the Epstein opposition, because everyone else has been tarred and feathered. They've all been discredited, So Katie Fang goes on MSN Now with Joy Reid there, and they're examining, because they come up with this theory that, is Katie Johnson the same person as the Jane Doe case, the one who was represented by Tom Mann, my client? And it's so obvious that they're both the same plaintiff, but somehow she's going to put her glasses on and read the complaints and try and figure it out. First of all, you could just find it out. It's common knowledge. ChatGPT knows. You could have called me. I could have told you. They did actually call me, and I told them. Ellie Leonard was a guest on there, and she called me and I told her. But they're going through this whole big charade, like, oh, is it the same one? Let's examine this. Let's do a whole show about it, when it's obvious she was. Okay, it's just foolishness to think not. And it's funny too, because if you go back to the first show I did about this in 2019, when I was finally able to release my NDA and I was allowed to talk about it, I called it the Katie Doe case. Because back then, it was Katie Johnson, Jane Doe, we used to call it the Katie Doe. Because they were both the same plaintiff. Then you can go back and if you see the date on it from 2019, before all this big hysteria and this nonsense, with these elevated characters out of nowhere, which I'm suspicious about all of them, Give me a break. So anyway, I'm going to be getting into the Katie Johnson stuff and Katie Fang stuff tomorrow with the great Dave Emery. And it's good to get this stuff on the record, because Dave Emery, he's in Wikipedia. He's going to go down in history. By the way, if you're out there and you're a Wikipedia editor, get a hold of me. I'm trying to get my Wikipedia page up, and I'm having trouble. And I have a whole project in mind I want to do with Wikipedia, with going back to all my former guests and putting a link to the podcast. They've been a guest on the show, and they have a podcast appearance. Let's put the link on there, man, on their page. So I'll pay you, man. If you need money, I'll pay you. But this is something that should be done, man. The fact that I'm not on Wikipedia it should tell you something. Okay? I got like 20 TV appearances. I'm in like 30 magazine articles all over the place. BBC, 2020, Nightline. I've been in everything, man. Give me a break. Documentary films is like, I'm mentioned in like 10 books, and I don't have a radio show. I wrote a book. Give me a break, and I don't have a Wikipedia page? What does that tell you? Tells you I'm a little shot out of a cannon today. I'll tell you that. Let's see how we're doing on time here. God, six, get me out of here. We're doing good. Okay, good. Go back to my notes. Couple of things this week. Let's see here, man. Anyway, so try and check out tomorrow Dave Emery. You can get in there live. Ask me questions if you want. I'm not afraid to take any questions from anybody, okay? Just got to be respectful. I want to kick your ass, okay? But just pretend you're saying it to my face. Let's try that. All right. Yippies. Jim Rothstein passed away just recently, man. I think it was in June or July. I should have got the exact date. I'm sorry, Jim. Jim Rothstein, you might remember him, retired New York City detective involved in the Son of Sam stuff and all those kind of interesting cases, the Stonewall riots and stuff. Really familiar with the whole corruption and blackmail in New York City. I was one of the first people to bring Jim Rothstein into the public eye, and get him out there. And I know that he was the most excited and proud of the interviews I did with him. So was I. I enjoyed my interviews with Jim. The last interview I did with Jim Rothstein was it was a live interview, and he was making those claims about those sealed indictments. Remember, everybody was talking about those sealed indictments. And listen, the whole thing with the sealed indictments, and people would say, well, you can go on Pacer and look up on Pacer and see all these sealed indictments. And he should have known better than to continue that stuff. It was horse shit, and I've been using Pacer back in the day before we had home computers, and when you were looking up court cases and you went down to the courthouse, you would look up on Pacer. It was like an internal database system you use, okay? And, it was available to the public. You couldn't open up a Pacer account. And so people would try, and I was trying to explain to people, I said, look, guys, if they're sealed, we don't know if they're indictments. We don't know if they're subpoenas. We don't know if they're wiretaps. We don't know what they are. Okay, if they're sealed, we don't know what they're sealed filings. Those aren't necessarily indictments. And then when they started coming out, we started seeing, well, some of them weren't. Roger Stone was one of those sealed indictments. So there was a big immigration thing. 200 cases were sealed. So, the idea that these were somehow QAnon, all that nonsense, man, he should have known better. And he was trying to tell me that there were secret grand juries and stuff like that. And I just said, hey, Jim, man, it's not true. Man, dude, Jim, I love you. You got a lot of good information about Son of Sam and stuff like that. Also, too, then there was some guys kind of put pressure on him to shook him down for his Son of Sam research and stuff like that. I have access to all that stuff if I want it. It's been sent to me. I've never looked through it. It's just that whole thing became such a circus, and I believe toward the end of his life, people were taking advantage of him and putting pressure on him. Anyway. But good old Jim Rothstein passed away, man. God bless him. Rest in peace, my friend. And once again, I got to tell you, 10 years ahead of everybody else with Jim Rothstein, man, that just goes, no one could touch that before me, man. Let's see. There was some other stuff around that area, too. Oh, yeah. You go back and listen to all that stuff with Tony Spurl. As someone... Oh my God! I forget it. I don't even want to bother. The people, God, some people they only want low hanging fruit, and you got to spoon feed them. Otherwise, they just don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand the conversation. We're lucky to get people that are involved in stuff. They can't come on here and start confessing to murders and stuff. Okay, like guys. I had a guest on here, Gordon Martinez. And this is back in the days I used to do the show live at night. And then I would do like an after show, and I'd start drinking beer for the after show. I'd be a little drunk by the end of the show. And Gordon Martinez I got this guy confessing to stuff all over the place, man. Stuff that could have got him in a lot of trouble. Luckily, we didn't have a lot of listeners back in those days. I could be mean to people and get them to confess on the show. I have that talent, but you just got to... listen carefully, okay, guys? You got to listen carefully. I'm not going to spoon feed you, all right? I can't spoon feed you sometimes, But the stupidity of some people is just unbelievable, man. So, good old Jim Rothstein. Let's see here. Now, probably what the main topic of today's show is... Boozy Badass. Okay. I see a post the other day. I'm taping with David Wheeler from American Muckrakers. You'll be hearing that show tonight. And I see this post from Boozy Badass, and he lists a list of names. He's suing Jacob Wall and Berkman and Wall. Okay. John Berkman, I think it is, and Jacob Wall. And who are those two quote-unquote lobbyists in D.C., Jacob Wall is kind of a young guy, and he has an OnlyFans where he posts his semi-nude pics and stuff like that. And I don't know about now, but when I was involved with these guys, he lived in a hotel, luxury hotel, and Berkman would pay for his hotel to live in, And so I got involved with these guys, looking up stuff with them. These are the guys, okay, who... I don't know if they created, but they were early on in the creation of the Seth Rich hoax. Okay? To right-wing political operatives that are known, check out their press conferences. They're known for being doing shtick on the one hand, And on the other hand, too, of being involved in a lot of scams and operations and stuff. There's a story. I told the story on the show where they hired some guy. Some guy was giving him information about Seth Rich, and he was either a Navy SEAL or a special ops type of guy. He's a military guy. And somehow people think that, like, if you're a Navy SEAL or a special ops guy or Ranger or whatever, Green Beret, that somehow that gives you qualifications to be a private investigator. Like, I'm going to hire him as an investigator. Just because you can carry a heavy backpack around and shoot a rifle, and maybe stab a guy or plant explosives or something like that, doesn't mean you can be an investigator. It's two whole separate things. Of course, many investigators already have a background, that kind of stuff, and security and personal protection and stuff like that. And I broker that kind of stuff. I've never done it myself. I could, I've been involved in stuff. A couple of times I had to kick in a door to when I was looking for a missing person. And I've done kind of a lot of stuff. But anyway, so Berkman and Wall, these are the guys behind the Seth Rich hoax, okay? And I contacted Berkman about doing an interview about the Seth Rich story, okay? That's how I met these guys. That's how I came into contact with these guys originally. They've been involved in all kind of shenanigans. Some of it I believe, some of it I don't believe. But look them up. One of them was, and I've done other stories about them too. One was that they were hired by Ghislaine Maxwell to dig up dirt on plaintiffs and victims. Okay, and there is some paper trail to that. They were hired by a Granite Corporation, which was involved in the same company with Granite Realty. Her home was in the name of this LLC called Granite something, and they were hired by a company called Granite as lobbyists, and they filed that lobbying thing right the same day as Maxwell was arrested. There's a paper trail to it. I've been on one side or the other. Is it one of their hoaxes and publicity stunts? Is it not? What is? What isn't? It's hard to tell. I was so deep in with these guys and talking to the people they hired for these stunts and these shenanigans and these smear campaigns that at one point I had nude pictures, okay, of one of their girlfriends, okay, just sending me her nude pictures, okay, when she was on, and text messages of her with these guys, okay, all right. So I'm a little in the know here. I have some bare facts in this investigation here. There was also some talk, too, and this one I believe, that they were paid $50,000, that Hope Hicks left the White House with $50,000 cashed and delivered it to them to do a smear job on Anthony Fauci. That's one of the ones I believe. There's a lot of stuff these guys were involved in. That a lot of it's a smear, a lot of it's hoax, and a lot of it's shenanigans just for their own entertainment, their own publicity. I interviewed a young lady who talked about she was in their townhouse, Mr. Berkman's townhouse in D.C., and there were the stacks of cash all over the place. So they're doing lobbying, they're doing smear jobs, they're doing all kinds of stuff. Now, Mr. Boozy Badass is this rapper guy who seems to have a very serious reputation of being a serious guy out there doing stuff. All right, and he had some kind of conviction, and he's alleging that he gave them $600,000 to purchase a pardon. And he lists a bunch of names that were in emails between him and Berkman and Wall, like Erica Kirk and Cernovich, or maybe Prozovich, I don't know, a lot of guys. Laura Loomer is mentioned in there. A whole bunch of people are mentioned in this list of names. Some have come public and says, I don't know anything about this. Some have remained silent. I believe that Berkman and Wall would name drop. Are some of these people involved in peddling pardons and stuff like that and using influence for pardons? There's a whole industry out there for these pardons. I've been involved in it myself. So I know it's for real, okay? That's for sure. They're going, and a lot of people are coming back to me saying, well, Ed, the going rate's $2 million. That's true. The going rate is $2 million, but there's other people involved. I can tell you that the rates are way, 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 way lower. That $600,000 would be in the ballpark. Okay, $600,000 sounds like someone's getting $500,000, and Berkman and Wall getting $100,000. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay, And there is a lot of shadiness going on with these pardons, that people are stealing money for pardons and all kind of stuff. In fact, I had John Kirkawa, the CIA whistleblower guy, on my show. And he tells the whole story about that they tried to sell him a pardon. Okay? So I know what's going on with the pardons. All right, let's just leave it at that. All right? And so Boozy Badass is suing Berkman and Wall because they, according to him, they offered him a pardon for $600,000, and they did not come through with the pardon. So now he wants his money back. Okay, and he's not using the old-fashioned way. He's using the court system to go in there and get his pardons back. So, let me put you on hold for a second here. Ooh, sorry about that. I had a stuffy nose that I had to work on. Nothing worse than listen to a guy with a stuffy nose on the radio. So back to this whole thing here with Berkman and Wall and pardons for sale and the two Katies and the Katie Johnson and stuff like that. Along the lines of this, right? There's this popular theory that was popularized out there about blackmail, that somehow Epstein was involved in blackmail. And now, all the people who advance this theory and this allegation have no experience with blackmail personally in their life whatsoever. They have no personal knowledge about blackmail. They've never worked on a blackmail case. They've never been blackmailed. They've never been accused of blackmail. Pretty much, they came out of nowhere and became an expert on blackmail somehow. I guess they read a book about blackmail. That could possibly it. They Googled something about blackmail, but they know nothing about blackmail whatsoever. But it's become popular that, you have to believe this blackmail story because we've just heard it so many times. I fell for that. I was repeating that blackmail bullshit, Well, now we see these files here, and Epstein's friends with all these people supposedly he's blackmailing. And don't give me this stuff about Bill Gates saying that, he was dating these two Russian girls and Epstein was trying to use it to influence him. Give me a break. And when you're doing crimes with people, okay, whether it's the crime is raping little kids or it's money laundering or influence peddling, all these things they're doing, inside trading, crypto shit, all this stuff. When you're doing crimes with people, you're not going to do crimes with someone who is a snitch, okay? And if a guy's telling you, hey, man, if you don't do this, I'm going to snitch on you, you're not going to do business with that guy. But they're still all friends and they're all doing business and they're partying together. Give me a break. Okay? And that's the difference between knowing about what's going on in the real world and Googling and writing and reading in a book. Give me a break. But what do we have here now? The Epstein files. Release the files. Release the files. Some are redacted. Names are redacted. Other names aren't redacted. What's the chain of custody on these freaking files? Who controls these files? The guys. The Epstein folks control it. His friends, his buddies, his codependents, they're the ones that control the damn files. And we want them to release it? Why, because they're going to rat on themselves? Give me a break, guys. We talk about talk about blackmail and talk about paying for pardons. We got a guy who's selling pardons. We know that for a fact. I know for a fact. I could testify in court. If I was a snitch and a rat, I could testify in court. Okay, well, I'm paying for pardons, and who's getting paid for it? All right, and how much they're getting paid? All right? So what do we got now? Well, they're blackmailers, right? Oh, they're blackmailers. Okay, well, what do we got now? We got these files, and they're withholding the files. They're withholding 3 million files. They're withholding 3 million files because if you pay them for a pardon, if you pay them to keep the file secret, they'll keep them secret. If you don't pay them to keep it secret, they'll release them. Blackmail. Okay? So you want blackmail and paying for pardons or paying for freedom or paying for anonymity. There it is. There's your scam. There's your operation, ladies and gentlemen. The files. The files is the biggest scam out of all. This is the biggest blackmail operation, and it's bigger than these pardons for sale. Because all these guys are billionaires. They got money to pay to keep that quiet. You kidding me? Don't worry, Katie Fang is taking care of this. Katie Fang is on the case. Don't worry, guys. She's going to get 8 names released and one stack of files uncovered there. Clearly, the whole deal with the files is a whole nother operation, man, okay? They control the files. They control what's being released. They control what's not being released. They're known for taking bribes on the pardons, and they're known for blackmailing each other, man. Come on. Give me a break. Zooks. Why do I bother? We should put a bullseye on myself, man, with all this shit I do. For no thanks, no nothing, man. No, and not even a Wikipedia page. You know what I mean? Okay, they're holding back 3 million files. Okay. Now, nothing came out this week. I hate to lose my temper on this show. I'm such a happy-go-lucky guy. You should see me during the week. I'm known. People know me in my real life and stuff like that. I'm just happy-go-lucky guy, man. Everybody knows it. By the way, too, Richard Kerr can tell you about blackmail, man, and about how because they can also put completely innocent people in those files. Richard Kerr told a story about how they would take him to this hotel where there was a lot of stuff going on, and when he saw one of these politicians getting off the elevator, he would just walk up next to him, stand next to him, and hold his hand. Or just stand next to him. They'd take a picture of that. It looks like the guy's with a little boy. They got blackmail dirt on this guy, even though the guy hasn't done a damn thing. It's the same. It goes in many different directions. And you don't learn these things by reading a book, man. Who brought you Richard Kerr first? Huh? And how many cases came out of that? Getting a little fed up here, guys. Doing a lot of work for not a lot of reward. Okay? And it seems... another one that came out this week is the widow from Butler assassination attempt. Comes out, she does an interview, and she says, I think it was some type of an inside job, she says. I think it was a setup. There's a lot of stuff there going on. I couldn't agree more. I had a guest on here to talk about that. Mr. Silva came on here, and he didn't think it was staged. He had a lot of information, a lot of good information, a lot of good research. I think there was a lot of staging that went on there for sure. And you can make it all fit that it was also an inside job. It was staged, and there was, you can make it all fit. Okay, if you need me to, I'll do it for you. I'll do a whole show about that, just my own analysis on that. I'll do it myself. I'll do some research on it. And I'll be a researcher and give you my opinions on that. But here comes, the widow comes forward and she says, well, I think it was an inside job. I forget what her exact phrasing is, but she has her opinions that wasn't up to snuff, right? Now, it's a two-edged sword when you have this, okay? She has this opinion. Now, does she have access to inside information? Does she have access to insider gossip? Yeah, she might. Okay, but she might not. Okay, doing this show and doing my kind of work for the 45 freaking years that I've done it, and doing this show for the 15 years that I've done it. Okay, you meet a lot of people, and they'll come to you, and they'll say, "Hey, Ed, I have personal involvement in this. I have personal connection to this story. I'm involved personally. And here's what I think happened." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Great. Bingo. Gold mine. I got someone who's directly connected. And they're involved. I can interview them and find out what they know." And then what happens is, when I talk to them either off the air or on the air, whatever, it could be a job, sometimes it's both. I talk to them. And then I find out, well, they're personally connected. Yeah, they have a personal relation to the case, but they don't have any inside information. The information they're telling me is stuff they got from the internet. That woman I had her on, Candy Girl, Fiona Barnett. She writes this book, and she's telling me stuff in this book, and I'm talking to her, and I said, but I know for a fact that never happened. She's talking about a fire on Epstein Island. I said, I know that never happened, because at the time I was working with them on the Virgin Islands. I know that never happened. And I'm saying to her, well, these things you're talking about, I know they never happened. You know, and I says, where are you getting this information? She goes, well, it's all on the internet. So she's telling me stuff like she's an authority or a source on something, but she's just getting from the internet. There's another case, it's a very widely publicized case people talk about all the time, you know, and it's a friend of mine, you know, who was the PBA delegate to the situation. And I know he listens, and I hate to offend him, but, you know, he says, hey, look into this, investigate it, this is my friend. But then when I ask him about it, he has no information. It's all what he hears on the internet. You know, and I love him, man, but come on. You know, and this is many, many times. So this woman here, does she have any information? She could. You know, because when you're involved in this stuff, there's all kind of gossip that goes on. People give you tips. You know, some of it's real, some of it's not. Also, too, people insert themselves into your life with bullshit to maneuver you and manipulate and all kind of stuff like that. That's a whole consideration you have to take into factor, too. And if someone was just recently a widow, you know, you're not thinking, you know, most clearly that you're at a vulnerable time in your life for people to come in and take advantage of you and manipulate you and direct you, especially when people come in and they want to help you. They're, oh, this person, they would never lie to me because look how they helped me when I was in trouble. Those are the people you got to worry about and watch out for, you know. And then once again, you know, like you could be the best YouTuber in the world, but unless you've lived a freaking life, you know, you don't know these things. You're just repeating crap, you know. And it's exhausting, you know. And you know what? It's getting worse and worse now too with these TikToks and these reels and stuff like that. Like I'll comment on this stuff and I'll say, "Hey, look, man, you know, I've interviewed people involved in this case. You're talking about 3 cases here. Out of 2 out of the 3 cases, I know the guy that broke the story. They're friends of mine. Okay, I know them. Okay, you know, I'm personally involved with them. The 3rd story, you got it wrong. Okay." Oh, well, you must be CIA. You must be. Oh, God. Because you watch TikTok for 15 minutes, you're an expert. You know, I've been reporting on this stuff before TikTok existed and before you were born. You know, okay, before you knew these things 15, 20 years ago, man, with the people involved. It's exhausting. But now everybody's an expert. Oh, everything. It's a psyop. They know it's a psyop. They know it's a psyop. There's another thing going on out there you should be aware of. I'm being interviewed about Zorro Ranch. I gave a quote about Zorro Ranch. I don't know if they're going to use it or not. Now, by the way, too, I went and I found out there was like 10 episodes, 10 issues of the Sunday Express, which is a British tabloid, and I'm quoted all over the place. And some of these, they're quotes that they say they have an exclusive interview with me. Okay, now these are quotes I give, you know, that they're out there and they're spread around. People use them. A lot of times they don't tell me they're using them, and sometimes they build a whole story around it. You know, sometimes I agree with, and sometimes I don't. So. And sometimes they get stuff wrong. And a lot of times, too, I'm quoted anonymously, too, as an anonymous deep insider investigator in the Epstein case. And I'm quoted anonymously. And I have a whole story right now. If I just had time, I could put it together. I'd have a story on the front page of these papers right now. But it's just still a lot of work, you know. But there's a focus now on Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch now, and they want to focus on Zorro Ranch, and personally, and I know people want my attention on Zorro Ranch. I don't think a lot went on at Zorro Ranch. If you listen to the testimony at the oversight, they were there maybe 4 weeks out of a year. But oh no, there's DNA testing and there's human genetics and underground bases and military contractors. Zorro, my hair's on fire, Zorro Ranch. And so the quote I gave is, "Hey, listen, if you want to search," and by the way, there is a tip that there's some bodies buried in the hills outside of the Zorro Ranch. And then they have some pictures of a pile of rocks on Zorro Ranch, and let's all tie it all together, and that's where the bodies are. Okay, Zorro Ranch is 7,000 square, I forget if it's acres or miles, but either way, it's a huge, huge property. And then all the adjacent property is public land, hundreds of miles. So this idea that, you know, what do you call it? you can search this for, and the budget to search it was $2 million. And then, and I'm trying to explain to people, and listen, you can't search a property of this size. And I did the math, and I looked it up, and I did the research. Okay, you can't search a property of this size for $2 million. I try to explain it. Well, Ed, you don't understand. They'll use ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR, and they'll use drones and cadaver dogs, Ed. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I understand it. $2 million budget, okay? Do you know, let's say you have 20 dogs. You know how much dog food you need for 20 dogs? First, you need to bring the dogs in. You need to bring in the dog handlers. You need to bring in the drone pilots. You need to have tents. You need to have sifting equipment, shovels. $2 million is nothing. Hotel rooms, cars, rental cars. $2 million is nothing to search. It's a weekend. Okay, of searching a property of that size. Okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So if you really want to search a property of that size, you need a budget. You need a real budget. You need a $15 million budget. Okay, to get in there and really do this job. You would need hundreds of agents. You would need hundreds of experts. 50 tents. You would need hundreds of dogs and hundreds, dozens of drone pilots. Okay, this is not something you would do in a month. Okay, this is a huge operation, and it's been so many years. There's wildlife that would disrupt any kind of grave sites out there. Plus, they could have burned them and they could have dissolved them. There's all kind of stuff. That's a dead end. Okay, it's a distraction. They're sending you off on a wild goose chase for Zora Ranch, guys. Trust me on this. Okay, I've been around a little while. And then when I see that they're publicizing these stories, I was attacked with the Cuban radar directed energy weapons at my brain, and I'm leaving the country. When I see people like that being elevated to a serious level, you know that it's all bullshit. Okay, guys, and I don't know what to tell you, but that's what I'm telling you. All right, we're out of time. All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. Coming up after this is going to be David Wheeler, American Muckraker, with some stories. We go over old things and new things. And then this really, really good interview. I'm going to put it up first with Misguided Patriots. This fellow here grew up, his family's in the CIA. There's MK Ultra connections, JFK assassination connections. The book just came out. This guy isn't a self-promoter. He's not tooting his own horn. He's not making stuff up. Okay, this is a guy who has questions, who's asking questions, who has very little bit of information. His website, by the way, misguidedpatriots.com, has video, video testimony of his mother, who's talking about stuff. And then there was the death of his father, which is very mysterious and very suspicious. A lot of really good stuff in his interview. And I really encourage people to go out and check out that book, Misguided Patriots, okay? The guy comes off to me very sincere, and I think he will too, to you. Otherwise, now, if you like our show, if you're out there, you're an expert on Wikipedia, get a hold of me. I need help creating a Wikipedia page, and also to going to other editing many, like 100 Wikipedia pages to backlink to my shows. I'll pay you for that. I'll pay you to show me. I'll pay you to show me. One night, this guy was on his way to prison, and he showed up at the PI office where my boss had done some surveillance, counter surveillance techniques for him, but the government had all kind of wiretaps on him. And he goes, show me at it. I'll pay you to show me. They were terrified. They thought I was going to kill everybody in the joint. I said, I'll stay. Hey, get out of here. No, I'll stay. I'll stay with you. No, hey, get out of here. Save yourself, young man. Thomas Puccio was paid $15 million, and this guy got like 15 years for murder. That was his. That's what he bought, for $15 million is to get 15 years. Probably got out in 7 or 8. Probably looking for me now. All right, guys. Enjoy the night. The 2 shows tonight. Check me out tomorrow on Dave Emery. Okay. And otherwise, leave me alone.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I find it very, very easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day's through. Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you. Because you're mine, I walk the line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I keep you on my mind both day and night. And happiness I've known proves that it's right. Because you're mine, I walk the line. You've got a way to keep me on your side. You give me cause for love that I can't hide. For you I know I'd even try to turn the tide. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line.